Evening, David. It's that time of the year again where we meet up and have a little chat. And you reminded me just before we started this, it was 2 years since the last time we did this.
Yeah, over 2 years, I think, yeah.
See, I would have thought that would have been last season, that conversation.
Yeah, well, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be here.
Good. And it's great to see you here.
Thanks.
And on that note, how have you been and how are you?
I'm getting there. It's been slow progress. It's been 4 months since the event, just under 4 months, so it's early days yet. Slow progress. I need to let nature take its course, but I am getting there. And the fact that I'm here and and interested and involved in the football club is sort of shows that that's working. But it's been tough. It was a bit touch and go at one point.
And without going into too much detail, because it's your private life, and I fully respect that, did you have a sort of a moment throughout it all where you had that sort of bonk on the head moment where you realised to yourself that actually this was really serious, and there's certain actions that you may or may not have done that would have helped you?
Yeah, I think the thing that helped me the most was recognising that this was not an ordinary headache. I don't really get headaches anyway, but I had this terrible headache. I woke up in the middle of the night and it got worse and worse and worse. It was like having your head in a vice, getting tighter. And I realised then that I needed help. So I woke my wife and said, I need help quickly. And I sort of maybe guessed what it was. I couldn't stand up.
Oh, wow.
Fell over, tried to get out of bed, fell over. I was feeling very unwell. And she, has been great and called the ambulance, and I went into Epsom, under blues and twos, because with things like a stroke and a heart attack, time is of the essence. The sooner you can get to hospital. So, I was definitely a wimp. I wasn't being manly about this headache. I was going to get all the help I needed. I recognised it was an issue.
And absolutely the right decision to make as well at the time.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of blokes that wouldn't have.
Yeah, well, if anybody takes anything out of this interview, it's do not be too proud to seek help.
Brilliant. And how is the recovery?
Yeah, as I said, it's slow. There are still things which I won't go into, which both physical and mental, to be honest, that are still there. But I'm trying to get back to normality. It will be a new normal. The doctor said to me, don't fight the tiredness. So I'm desperately trying not to overdo it, because, my style is to work as hard as possible on things and keep pushing. Unfortunately, that it doesn't work. What I am very fortunate with the club is the people around the club, have all rallied around. And in particular, I did want to just say thank you to the board in particular, and John Dean as vice chairman has, taken over my chairman, and the fact that, I haven't really been missed. The club is still thriving, had a great end of year. I didn't see a game for February, March. I came to the final game of the season on the 20th of April, Good Monday, which sort of freaked me out a little bit, to be honest, and the award ceremony. But the fact, these guys said, don't worry about it. You're the most important thing. And, I'm very, very grateful for that. I really am. And, the TSC, the committee, all the supporters. And in fact, everybody in football. I've had messages from people I know in football, from Mark White at Dorking, from Harry Hugo at Farnham, sent me messages to people I don't know in football who've explained and have, were aware of me, whatever, and it had happened, and just wanted to send a message saying, get yourself better, don't worry, it will still be there when you get back. So sponsors, all these communities which we have at Leatherhead Football Club really showed their true spirit, if you like. I didn't expect that.
It's
And
great.
actually, I couldn't answer most of them because I was feeling too ill.
But that's football, isn't it? And that is the community of football.
Yeah,
And that's what this
exactly.
club does a lot better than a lot of other clubs. We use the word sometimes family,
Yeah.
the green and white family,
Yeah,
and we are very much like that. And
absolutely.
it's when, we've seen it. Recently we've lost a couple of our supporters, and the outpouring of emotions and
Yeah.
grief and just respect for those people that we lost from the fans has been fantastic, and must have been some comfort to the families as well
Yeah.
that are involved at Leatherhead. So
Yeah, I was very pleased I was well enough to go to the funerals of David Johnston, who supported the Tanners for over 50 years, and who I used to speak to at every game he came to, mostly about music, to be honest, not football, because he liked the sort of weird music I like, so I could have the conversation. And obviously Bernard,
Yeah.
Dory Boys, went to the funeral on Friday. And absolutely what you said, the fact that so many green and white people turned out was appreciated by the families. And also, I mean, I have to say, with what's happened to me, you do realise, it does make you think. I do think slightly differently about, without being morbid, but sort of mortality. We haven't got long, and it sort of makes me want to press on and do what I want to do, both at the football club and in the rest of my life. So, David wasn't very, very old, and Bernard wasn't mega old, to be honest. So
well, we're really glad to have you back.
thanks.
I know you're not back in full capacity as
No.
yet, but that's absolutely fine, as you quite rightly said. Everyone
Yeah.
else has got on with it. And when you say that we didn't realise you weren't here, we all knew you weren't here, and we did realise you weren't here. But
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. In terms of the running of the club, it went as smooth as it would do had you been here. Look, you come back when you're fully fit and fully ready, and you'll be welcomed by everybody around the ground, as you always are.
Yes, I'm easing myself back into it,
Good.
I think, is the phrase.
And aside from the football, we'll talk about this. Music-wise, you've been quite busy, haven't you?
Yeah, that's another sign of, that's part of my normality. It'll be a new normal, but, the thing they said to me when I was starting out on this journey with rehabilitation was, what do you like doing? And we'll try and tailor your rehab towards that. And, music was one of those things. So I could play guitar and sing, not particularly well, not as good as usual, or maybe as badly as usual.
Well, hang on a second. Bruce Springsteen's made a career out of not being able to sing, so I'm sure you can.
He's made more money than me. But that was good, and I could do that. So I also wrote some songs. When I was in hospital, I actually wrote down some things about what I saw and how I was feeling. And I promised myself I would put them to music when I felt like doing that, but I wouldn't change the words. So they're pretty raw. Just because I find part of my therapy is, I do a blog as well, is writing stuff down and writing music and singing. I have been back in the recording studio as well.
Well, it's that old adage, isn't it? Do more of what makes you happy. And I know that makes you
Yeah.
happy. And I mean, at the moment, I can't keep up. You send me every single that you bring out. I mean, at the moment, you're knocking them out quicker than Ed Sheeran.
I know.
And that says something, because he does about 2 a month at the moment. So, but no, listen, you keep doing it and keep sending them to me, and I'll keep playing them on the radio as well for you.
Thanks. Yeah, and thanks for your support.
That's
and I mean,
cool.
I'm going to have a pause. Actually, I'm working on album 3, so I have 12 new songs, but I actually haven't recorded them. That's going to take a bit of time. And that's not a bad thing. And both on a personal level, it won't be a bad thing just to take a little bit more time, less hurry.
Good. Don't leave it too long, will you? My new music on a Saturday morning, I need something to play, all right?
Yeah.
So let's talk now about football. So it's really good to see you back at the ground. Let's have a reflection first, really, on last season, from start to finish.
Yeah, it got better. That's my overall summary. Bear in mind, I missed a chunk of coming to games, but even, being at home and lying down and stuff, I was following every game on Twitter and stuff. It's awful following games on Twitter because
Sorry, you're not talking about my commentary.
not at all. No, in fact, I've got to be honest. It's really hard listening to the commentary, but the updates and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you just know that even at 90+5 minutes, something's going to happen, and some of the games, ridiculous. It was like 90+10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I think the changes we made at the end of last season. Were challenging for everybody. We finished third in the league the year before we got to the playoff final. So, it was a good season. But we made changes because we felt that was the right thing for the club. But what that meant was, on the pitch, for Ian and his team had to start from scratch. And I think personally I underestimated how challenging that was. Ian did tell me it was challenging. And to build a team, not necessarily to fill the positions and get the people you want, but to get them playing as a team, as a unit, as a group. And that takes time, and I underestimated that. Ian was right on that. He told me that would happen. And I think if we'd have played the whole season like we did the second half of the season, we'd have been top 3. Because I think, you could almost see the unit gel. So I see it really positively. And, the fact that we've retained the vast, vast majority of those people and hopefully made some additions as well, augurs well for next season. But, when we win well, I don't get too high. When we lose badly, I don't get too low. Even losing 10-0, I didn't get too low. Although I didn't do my recovery much good, I've got to tell you.
No, it didn't do me any good on commentary
But,
as well.
But at these times, I've learned with my recovery, it's not a straight line, and football's the same. You are going to lose games, and sometimes you get a freak result like that, and it's the mark of us is how we react to that. Do we knee jerk or do we reflect on it? And the first thing a number of us did was ring Ian up and offer our support. So
which is really good.
Yeah, it's hard, but that's when he needs support, not when we've won 10-0 because everybody's happy.
And Ian, not that he was low in my estimation, but he went very high up in my estimation because he
100%.
came to me straight after that game and said, are we going to do an interview? And I said, are you sure you want to do one?
Yeah.
And he went, no, absolutely, we're going to do one. And I thought, fair play to him for stepping up and facing the crowd after a result like that. And people have asked me about that game as well because I was there. I tell people, I just can't explain it. It's inexplainable. It was just a complete freak result. They played very well.
Yeah.
We were goddamn awful.
Yeah.
And if you combine those two together,
and then
that's how you got the result.
The key was, how did that group react?
Well, that was massive.
And it was massive. And that is the mark of those players and the management team. No panic, and the reaction is the important thing. And it's the same off the field as well. And I think,
the final game was Hamburg Villa, wasn't it? Here.
Yeah, I think it was 2-1. I think
It was 2-1,
yeah.
Against against a team that made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it was a great reaction.
On that point, I mean, Ian, Mick and Adam, they're great to work with. And that's important because we're all doing this. We don't get paid for this. This is a hobby, if you want to call it that. It's a full-time hobby. But I don't want to be doing stuff which makes me miserable.
No.
And other people miserable. There will be times where it's not so good and we are unhappy, but generally, that's one of the things that I see around the club. Since we sort of started taking over, 2.5 years ago, we brought back smiles. People are smiling, and that's important. Talking to each other. Working together on and off the field. That is better than, yes, the financial position. We've improved that. Absolutely. And that's critical. But what is just as important is people have respect for each other, they're positive, they're upbeat, the environment's good. We've worked hard at that, on and off the pitch. And that's why Ian and his team are such a great fit. Great to work with. We do disagree, we have disagreements, but we can talk about them in a sensible way and solve them.
And it's important that you can have that mutual conversation.
Yeah.
Where both of you, at the end of that conversation, understand each other.
Yeah.
And leave the room still happy.
Totally.
Yeah. Very important.
Yeah.
Very important. So on the pitch, happy with last season?
Yeah.
I agree with your comments about the second half of the season, and I was trying to look for stats to see where we were and what points we got in the first half of the season compared to the second, but I couldn't get anything off FW. I should have spoken to Graham. He'd have it all written down.
Would.
He'd have it on a spreadsheet somewhere. No
You
doubt
know,
about it.
our attendances last year were the third highest in 45 years. And, you know, we're a football club, and, you know, we've got to remember that. Obviously, that's the key thing. And if we win more than we lose, and we play, you know, reasonably good football, pleasing to the eye, that's what people want to come and watch. And, you know, non-league football, we've seen this. Non-league football is, you know, is improving in popularity significantly, because Premiership is, and sort of league is expensive and difficult to get to. It's fine, it's great, but, you know, the attraction of non-league football, and in particular getting involved in a local club where you live, Leatherhead and District, is even more attractive, and we've seen that. But you've still got to win your football games.
Yeah, of course.
So, you know, it was a good year, very positive. I go into next year looking for us to build on that. I think we're all like that. We've got, you know, the core of the players. We know they work together well. We've added to it. But it's football. And strange things happen in football. So we're doing all the right things, but
we're starting the season in a better place than we were last season.
100%.
And that, I think, is
100%.
key. Yeah.
Off the pitch as well. You know, the shock waves of what happened were on and off the pitch. You know, so, and distractions and stuff like that. So we can focus a bit better.
And talking about off the pitch, so is there anything you can tell us about any sort of developments with the club, or?
Well, I think as well as running the club, we have spent a lot of time thinking about the future. One of the good things about, and one of the reasons why we wanted to stabilise the club, get it positive, get upbeat, have a spiral of success upwards where people want to come, is because that's a good grounding for what's happening next. And we said to the shareholders and at the club AGM last year, you know, we want to spend some of this season looking at options and, you know, where do we go with the club? Because if you, like anything in life, if you stand still, you go backwards. And we've seen some challenging headwinds off the pitch and on it. So what do I mean by that? Wage inflation. We've all suffered from costs going up, and that's, the football club is the same. The brewery put the prices of our beer up 4 times in the season.
Wow.
We have to pass those on. We try to, but we can't swallow all of those price rises. Electricity has gone up. We've all suffered from this in our personal lives, but also wage inflation for step 4 players. I've just, you know, it's amazing what, and the players, they're much different from non-league players that used to be, like 20 years ago. These guys are athletes. They take it very seriously, but likewise, you know, they weren't paying. And we know from other clubs that, you know, we don't pay what other clubs pay, but we pay more than some others. And that is only going one way, that's going upwards. That's life. So we are facing the challenge still, as I said at the AGM last year, of costs spiralling and our ability to generate revenues probably plateauing, because our facilities are great, but they're not state of the art. You know, we need to do some improvements at our club because Fetcham Grove is old. You know, sometimes people don't see, you know, the changing rooms are, let's call them traditional, but, you know, they are really, you know, going to need some work on them before too long. That all costs money. So all of that costs more. So what I'm saying is we need to change. And I've said this before, but we need to evolve, it's evolution, not revolution. What does that mean? Because that's all like management speak and stuff. We have spent a lot of time looking at options, talking to people. We're not decided yet. We hope to go to the club AGM with some more ideas on it or an update on it.
Okay.
So I would hope that, you know, people expect the board of directors to be thinking about the future. Because I can tell you, if we do nothing, we will go backwards. Because the only thing that gives with that sort of cost and revenue equation is the player budget. And obviously we want to put as much as we can on the pitch. We want to give Ian as much as we can.
So, and with the greatest respect to previous managers, we have gone backwards. That's why we're now at step 4.
Correct.
I know it's that we've perhaps taken our eye off the ball a little bit.
Correct.
Off the pitch.
Yeah.
Which affects then what happens on the pitch. And then you end up at step 4, and now you're fighting to get out of step 4.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that occurred to me was, you know, one of the reasons we went backwards and where we had some difficulties off the pitch 2 or 3 years ago was we only had one director. And now we put together a board of directors, the guys I mentioned to you earlier who were so supportive of me. You know, the work they've put into this place is unbelievable. I see that. And a lot of people don't. Plus all the other volunteers. But what I think we're going to need, and one of the things I was going to say was, you know, we need more people to get involved. And I'm hoping that by having created an environment which is fun, which is positive, on and off the pitch, where we smile at each other, we talk to each other, come and join us. And, you know, it's my hobby and you're giving back to the community. And our progress on the community side has been a big plus off the pitch. And I have to say hats off to Trevor Kelly, who has been leading this. You know, the effort that he's put into the relationships with local schools, getting the schools down here, you know, with Dave, the mascot, Dave has done a fantastic job as well. But, you know, somebody has to get these people to agree to come down on match day. All the parents, sort them out on the day, Dave, Trevor. Not only that, Trevor's organised, you know, Ian and Adam have gone into schools, talked to assemblies, given coaching lessons to school kids. That's what a community club's about. Every Monday here, we give space to the meeting room for people who are socially disadvantaged to have a nice warm space, get together for a few hours, have lunch. And, you know, we provide the space for that every Monday. That's what a community club is being about. So we are a football club, but we're an important part of our community. And what I would say to people is, I get a tremendously good feeling for doing that as a volunteer myself, knowing that our football club is doing good in the community, and we can do much more if we have the facilities. So to people, we need business brains with what we're hopefully going to do, make the club bigger. We need people to get involved, but be reassured it's not only a football club, but you're giving back to your community that you live in.
And is there any specific roles you're looking for?
I think around social media, financial, accountancy, but general business experience and knowledge, I think is where we could use some more help. So things that we can bounce off people, and it might be like, a day a month, but knowing that somebody is there who is maybe got a lot of business knowledge and experience, that they feel that they could, apply to this club, which is a business. I'm in my 60s. The board, apart from Jim Gordon, who's just joined us, I'm really pleased to say I see that as a really positive step that the TSC chairman will represent the supporters at board meetings. That's like they do in Germany. German football club boards have a supporter on the board. So we've replicated that. That's really important. But, we can't have enough people. But business, I think, business experience and knowledge, maybe people who are a little bit younger, who have maybe got, families and obviously work's busy for them, but maybe you can give a couple of evenings a month.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
It's good to know.
Yeah. And the sponsors, I've got to have a word out for our sponsors who are tremendously supportive. MDH, who are the front of shirt sponsors, and Matt Crowfoot, who does the back of the shirt and the shorts for next year. Plus, I also want to shout out for the women's team because, over time, we've been trying to become one club, and Neil's done a great job. The ladies finishing third in the league, it's far exceeded expectations. So there's a really positive story there as well. And, they were very separate from us, and gradually we're integrating. But that'll happen again over a period. It's not going to happen. We're not going to wake up one day and there suddenly. It's just, we haven't got the time, and, that's not life. But they are getting there.
And they could probably do with a bit of assistance on the social media side as well, couldn't they?
Yeah. So that's why, we've relaunched with your help. You've been a tremendous driving force between the new website and the social media. And I've got to say thank you to you, Simon. What you do and the rest of the media team is phenomenal and goes under the radar. But the new website is men's and women's combined. And again, another example of doing that. And the new website's under development. We will put more stuff on there. But you and I can't do the women's. We can give the facility for them to do it, the structure. But as you know, what we've said to Neil is, can you give us somebody who can dial in and, after every game, update the details, post a match report, maybe some highlights if that's what they want to do. So,
Well, perhaps if there's someone listening or that fancy doing it themselves, or they've got a son or a daughter that want to get into it, perhaps they're at sixth form college or at school and they want to get into social media. It's a good way that, young Ryan that works for us, helps us. He's done that. He's doing media studies now at college. He also does work at Sutton United. So it just goes to show if you get involved early and learn, I say the basics because that's what we do here. We're not professionals at this. It might put you in good stead for something that you want to go on to do later on in life. So if there is anyone that's watching this and knows of anybody, please by all means get in contact with the club.
I think a lot of the time people are frightened about what it might lead to, and I've had these feelings myself. Becoming chairman is, what happens if I'm chairman for like 10 years? I have got other stuff I want to do. Life's not just about the football club. There is outside life as well, and it is really important to me, but so are a lot of other things, music being one, family life and stuff like that, holidays. But I would say to people who maybe think like that is don't be frightened. We understand that if you want to come here for a year and then go to university, or if you want to come here for a year and you don't like it, it's fine. That's life. It's not a problem. And hopefully you've got something out of it, even if it's a bad experience. Hopefully it won't be. And as I said again, that's why it's so important that this club is seen as a welcoming club, is positive in what it does on and off the pitch, smiles. People want to get involved, is involved in the community, has some plans for the future, knows sort of where it's going, but not exactly. hopefully people want to get involved in that, because the more people get involved, the less we all have to do as well, and more fun it is. But I can understand why 2.5 years ago people wouldn't want to get involved, because it didn't feel great. We all know that. We asked everybody to suffer, didn't we?
Yeah, and 2.5, 3 years ago, when that's might have been a little bit more about when I took over the social media, just as a stopgap until you got somebody, there was a stage there where I was doing the match day announcing. I was taking photographs with a camera wrapped around my head, and then going home and doing it all online and posting it. And now we've got a great team with Ryan, with Chris, with Ben that does the music now, and Dave, and everyone involved does a great job. You've got Mark the photographer, you've got Stuart the photography, we've got Steve that comes in on the photography as well, and we've got Alice that's going to be doing videography as well for this season that's coming. So we've got a really good bunch, and that's the difference. That's why our output has gone up, because there's more people to help them.
Yeah, and we have a social media report one of our sponsors, Elliptics, produce, which shows us the stats on social media, and that has gone up and up across all channels: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, and that's because of the quality of and also the number of posts that we've been doing. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, but we understand people leave, footballers go. We have had players, but what we want is people to remember their time at Leatherhead fondly. And we always say goodbye, thank you. Come back if you want to. We understand that nothing is forever. But it's really important that people fondly remember this club, and our values are that we're welcoming and we help people, and they help us.
Good. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think that we've covered quite a lot of ground, but no, I'm optimistic. There's always challenges. There's always headwinds against us, on and off the pitch. But that's what this is about. So I'm really optimistic about it, and I cannot thank enough the people, particularly the board, but the other volunteers and everybody else involved in running this club that does such a great job, and meant that at my time of need, I didn't need to worry about it. And I do worry about it, but I didn't need to. And that is so reassuring, and that helped me get better. So that's a good way to end, I think.
It certainly is a great way to end. So
listen,
thank you for your time this evening. I know we'll see you back soon at Fetcham Grove, I've no doubt, if it's just 1 week on, 1 week off.
Yeah, exactly.
However you're going to do it.
Slowly,
But you're always welcome here, and keep coming back, and just take your time and get yourself into a position where you're fully ready to go and back fight and fully fit.
Thanks, Simon.
Everyone is behind you, you know that.
Thank you. No, I know that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good man.
Cheers.
Thanks for the chat. Cheers, David.